Oh yeah, you're coming on up here? Is that what's going on? Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's the Jimmy Doane Show. It is 4 o'clock, which means we are live right here on Facebook, coming at ya. Today is the 15th day of April 2020, and I will post a copy of this show up on YouTube. Such a dummy. All right, now we're live.
Okay, now we're
All right, that was me. All right, let's try that again. Hey everybody, it's the Jimmy Doane Show. This is 4 o'clock on Sunday or Wednesday. That means we're live right here. Sometimes we have an occasional glitch, which is why we're a few seconds late, but still, we're coming at you. Today is the 15th of April 2020, and I will post a timestamp copy of this show up on YouTube sometime later tonight. You can find us, search for Doane, Jimmy Doane, D-O-A-N-E, and you can find us around the web in audio format as well. So, we are here in the studio. Probably should have checked on that first too. And as you can see, everything is still on lockdown.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
The virus is still everywhere or whatever.
Well, I can prove that I've been sequestering in place because I haven't shaved for a couple of days. So,
oh yeah?
Now, Mrs. Jimmy said, hey, you got to go shave. I said, no, you don't understand. This is my proof that I haven't been out.
Part of the gig.
That's it. So, of course, as you know, we're going to talk about a couple of things, but I would guess that the news du jour and du week and du month is all about the oh yeah, we have a cat here today. That's good.
She's probably going to get escorted out soon. She's like, hey, I want to participate.
Yes, wants to play. That's right.
That's right.
Okay, so anyway, let me just go down the list here and kind of fun things. There's some big news happened in the last day or two, which is a lot of fun. But first of all, the CDC director says the second wave of coronavirus will likely hit the U.S. next year and warns of a seasonal pattern similar to the flu, which is kind of interesting in a way because they are now preparing us for the next pandemic. Mm-hmm. And just as you thought you were safe to go to the store, no. We're gonna just about the time you get ready to head on out without a mask, we're gonna slap you down again. And
well, yeah, look, all the officials have to err on the side of safety.
Of course they do.
And so they're all going to say, nobody wants to be the person who came out and said, it's fine, you can go back, and then everybody dies because they'll point right to that person and say, you killed my cousin Vinny or whatever.
We've talked about this before. There are a couple of axioms in the market. One is government bureaucrats always say no. And that's one of the reasons why you generally don't ask. What you do, you go and do it, and then you apologize.
Right.
When they catch you, now, unfortunately, like if you build a tree house or something, they come by and tell you to tear it down.
Raise your house.
No apology there. And nobody ever got fired in business for buying IBM. I mean, you can go in there and you could. I remember when the disk drives from Hitachi or somebody started coming on, they were like half the price of IBM. Boy, it took them a while to get in there, even though they were basically almost the same thing. And these are when disk drives were $100,000 each. So anyway, but that kind of stuff, the first response whenever you go to any bureaucrat is no.
Right.
I'd like to build a store over here. No.
Yeah. Well, look, that's their power, is nugatory.
Well, not only that, what you do is you have to get approval from a committee. And that way there's no blame.
Right.
Because that's when they use the passive voice.
Right.
The committee decided. Right. It was decided. That not the committee.
Hopefully we're approaching an era where people get away with that less and less. Because,
is that right?
Well, yeah, because now you can see who the people are. It's like I saw the other day, for example, the Southern Poverty Law Center said blah, blah, blah. Well, really? Did the center say that, or did somebody at the center? Why don't you trot them out there and have them say it, actually? Let's have a person.
Yeah.
So we can attach an idea to a person, have some accountability.
Well,
and,
between you and me, they're a bunch of thugs anyway.
well, we'll see. We'll see where they trot them out there. I'm sure my friend is a good person over there, but let's, like I said, let's get you on the record. And now everybody's got a Twitter account also, so you find out what their personal accounts situations
Biases are.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, I thought this was interesting because what they said is the guy did admit, the guy from the CDC director, he did admit, he says, "Man, got a little ahead of us on this one. We weren't quite up to steam, but we'll be there next time."
Just a little more funding.
A little more funding, right? We were underprepared for the current pandemic. Underprepared. That's right. And they're doing everything they can to prevent that from happening again. The outbreak this year got ahead of us, and so we went into full mitigation and lost the ability to use the critical public health tools. He said, "We're working hard to augment them now so that as we go into the next season, we'll be able to stay in high containment mode while we complement that with some continued mitigation strategies."
Blah, 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 blah. The critical public health role. Is that what it said?
It was high containment mode. While we complement that with some continued mitigation strategies.
Right. Sure, mitigation strategies.
And boy, I tell you,
sounds like
he went on praise for the Americans for their exceptional adherence to the drastic social distancing measures in place right now. So everybody that's staying home by themselves, we praise you.
We praise you. Yeah. We adore you.
That's right. We did not, in our original models, and this is one of the things that came out, and I thought Trump actually kind of got into this the other day on some kind of a little speech. He gets out there almost every day and gives you an update, but what?
Well, I was going to ask you about that. I haven't watched the updates, but...
Well, one of them he did. He said, the first death was like, I don't know, January sometime.
Okay.
And he said basically, somebody said at the CDC or someplace said, well, we're not in panic mode yet. But Trump went down and said, we're stopping everybody coming in from China. And that was like right at the end of January or the beginning of February. And as so far what the Trump haters have said is he didn't do enough.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a dead person. You need to close down.
Everybody's going through the timeline these days.
They are, and of course the timeline indicates that not much faster could you have reacted. It seems to me, but.
Yeah, well, we talked about that last time. I mean, we didn't go through the timeline on this show because we did actually a little bit. There's a good one, like I said, from Potholer, who goes through it. But even so, what were you just saying a second ago, though, about the preparedness and such? I mean, look,
they're going to be more prepared this next time. Apparently, they're going to stock up on ventilators and stuff.
Well, sure. Like I said, we're going to be awash with supplies in no time here.
Yeah, so I'm reminded a little bit. Yeah, on a couple of things that I know that when the United States, especially during wartime, now this is kind of a war in a way, when the United States ramps up during wartime, they really pump this stuff out. I mean, I was reading some of the numbers of B-52, B-15 or B-29 bombers or whatever it was, or the tanks or whatever it was, and I mean there was just jillions of them, and of course right at the end of the war there were lots and lots of them left over, and they were sold for scrap. They had you always see the pictures of the multi-million-dollar helicopters being shoved off the deck, just brand new, but just don't need them anymore. War's over, and. Anyway, this guy says, when we did our original models looking at this outbreak, we were looking at up to 2.2 million people that might be dead by the fall. When you see that and now it's 26,000 instead of 2.2 million.
Well, there's already
And he says, that's bad.
Yeah, well, there's already more than 26,000 deaths.
This is in the United States?
Yeah, aren't we up to like 40,000?
Maybe. This was done the other day.
Okay. I'm playing the slideshow of this is a day-by-day account of the Johns Hopkins website. Unfortunately, the middle information with the dots doesn't tell you anything because it's all crowded. I mean, it looks like a wipeout.
Right.
But so if you look at the numbers, you can see the changes and which countries gain and by how much. But it says total confirmed up there on the left-hand corner, but that doesn't count. As we talked about last time, there's probably a bunch of people out there who are asymptomatic or low symptomatic who are not getting counted, and that would account for. I mean, if you look at this thing, the death rate is several percentages. If you do a little math here between confirmed and deaths. It's much higher than it probably will end up being at the end.
Well, the other thing is, as you know, with the news, who have always said if it bleeds, it leads, and they will report almost every death. And it's the same thing over in Iraq. A soldier was killed today.
Right.
Well, you have 5,000 of them over there.
But now we're getting anecdotes back the other way. For example, we've got a bunch of recovered celebrities, right?
Oh, is that right? Oh,
yeah, Prince Charles is better.
Oh, okay.
He's Boris Johnson is out of the thing.
He's out, yeah.
And Tom Hanks is done. Chris Cuomo is out. None of the really famous people died. I mean, we had the Mad Magazine guy died. If you're an insider, there were a couple of people in various in the entertainment field that died. But other than that, it hadn't been so.
It's not all that many.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, none of the people that everybody really knows.
Right. Yeah.
None of the super famous people.
Yeah, super famous.
A-listers.
A-listers, that's right. Okay, moving on.
Okay.
Did we talk about the fact that Bernie had decided to cave completely, and endorse Joe Biden? We need you in the White House.
We did. The development since last time on the Biden front was now finally we got the Obama endorsement.
Yes, I saw that.
Did you see it?
Yes, he did. Barack Obama endorses Joe Biden for president, saying, "We need his sympathy and grace." I'm thinking, what? Now, the other thing that's interesting...
It's not exactly a full-throated...
No, it was not full-throated, right.
Endorsement.
And then he also praised Bernie as an American original and issued a full-throated condemnation of the Republicans. But what I thought was interesting was when I think about John McCain, he was a maverick. That was his thing. So now what we've got is Bernie Sanders is an American original.
Well, he is. I mean, that's true about Bernie. I thought that he had nicer things to say about Bernie than Joe. I mean, he talked about these nebulous concepts like grace and stuff. The only specific examples he gave was that Joe took the train home to tuck his kids in. It wasn't. He didn't mention. He said one project. He said they helped them stop the pandemic from H1N1. Though I don't think anybody else remembers Joe as the H1N1 czar leader. But the weird things about the endorsement, from my perspective, was the tone was quite happy. I mean, it was almost jolly in this. I mean, I know he's trying to be upbeat and everything, but we're kind of in a epidemic here, pandemic, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of a serious time. He's talking about a serious matter, and he was smiley and happy most of the endorsement.
Well, he said we need the right kind of leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership guided by knowledge and experience, honesty and humility, empathy and grace.
Right, these nebulous concepts which can be applied to anyone.
Anything, yeah.
And it was just like... it didn't sound. It was more the hostage video was kind of the way that it looked to me. It was one of the okay, you're going to say some good things about Joe now, and he's going to put you on the Supreme Court. And,
could be. So anyway, it's Obama did his part to pull the Democratic Party.
See, that's the other thing. I mean, you talk about waiting until the end.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
not exactly a year brave endorsement that you would have hoped for.
He said he calling on Bernie Sanders to participate in getting the new ideas out. And of course, this is the change in hope business all over again.
Well, it's more than that. You could if you look at the phrases that he used, he talked about the need for government in times like this. I mean, he really talked about statism in this thing and how useful it was. And
right. Well, he said that Biden and Sanders have common in that they agree that change needs to occur. And although we've not agreed on everything,
there's so much work.
We both know nothing is more powerful than millions of voices calling for change. And of course, this is like mob rule. I mean, look, that's what they did in Paris right before they stormed the Bastille. That was several 100,000 voices calling for change. And
well, yeah, but I mean, I would even suggest millions out of hundreds of millions. I mean, that's not a big percentage. But millions isn't. See, that's the thing. There are certain numbers you could get your face around, and then when you talk about thousands of people, you can visualize that. Right. Yeah.
And when the Million Man March, you can sign and see that. But when you see trillion or something,
billion people, what? Huh? What doesn't make sense? I agree with you there. I question Obama's
commitment. His endorsement, is it really sincere?
It doesn't sound sincere at all.
No.
And of course, then once you factor in the timing, you just want to say, okay, of course it's not sincere.
Yeah.
But what's he going to do, I guess, at this point?
Well, he's Democrats, I mean, Republicans are horrible, rotten people.
Yeah, well, it was a political speech. Yeah, exactly. It was an advertisement for, like I said, for statism and against the way he wants to characterize.
Yeah, they did say that kind of leadership doesn't just belong in our state capitals and mayor's offices.
Right.
It belongs in the White House. And that's why I'm so proud.
How about our businesses?
Yeah,
doesn't it belong as in our
one of the things when you realize if businesses cheat, they get called out pretty quick. I mean, that's bad. Yeah, that's bad. When a business does something wrong, even if it's an accident. I mean, I remember they had that girl, for instance, that spiked some of the pills with poison.
I mean, Tylenol,
whatever it was. But the bottom line was there was 50 million bottles recalled the next day.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you on that. I mean, I ran a business. I know if you make a mistake, one mistake, it's like they say about your reputation.
Right.
1,000 things can be erased with one mistake.
Boy, that is exactly the truth.
That's all it takes is one hit, and all of a sudden you got no customers. And so business is very accountable to their reputation. They are ultra accountable,
and I think about this even when I was growing up. And you would read books or something, and the parents would talk about a boy who was maybe 10 or 11 years old or 15 years old, and that's the so-and-so boy, he's the thief. Well, what he did was he
stole one thing when he was 6.
Exactly, he was a shoplifter. He stole a stick of gum,
right?
And and he's branded for a long time. I mean, that's the thing is that. Well,
that's the way that it works, and that's the way that it comes out. That's the way information is used. You get to use your judgment when you purchase with your dollars.
Well, I'm just right, exactly. Well, I'm constantly astounded by the amount of the outright hypocrisy, the lying, the lying that kills people in the government, and they get away with it. And they pass laws that make no sense at all, that are crazy things, and they backfire.
Like what are you talking pretty nebulous here, right?
Okay, well, things like what the FDA does, and a lot of the
and still pretty nebulous. Can you tie it to anything they've done recently?
No, I guess I can't. Okay, forget it.
Well, yeah, I mean they've done some shit recently. Now, I mean with the bailouts and such, and
that's another thing. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, I think. I guess you did hear just before walking over here. I found out that apparently there has been a collapse. The website that tells you about your $1,200 check crashed.
No.
Yes, crashed.
People are interested in that?
And no. Well, what's interesting is apparently that website is the one that follows the actual written checks.
Okay.
Which I find hard to believe because one of the little minor problems we've got is that the Donald was supposed to sign them all.
Well, let's get...
No, his name. He wants his name on all the stimulus checks.
So what?
No, it's just, but I mean, you've got to make up the little thing and stamp it on.
They've got it made up somewhere for
They got to
something
run them
else.
through there. I mean, on most checks, it's the Secretary of the Treasury and but now it's going to be the President of the United States.
Yeah. Well, look, and hopefully that is just a matter of substituting his digital signature into the template software that is normally used by whoever normally signs those checks.
Well, you can bet that Rachel is going to be on tonight saying that's why the thing broke down.
Delay.
The delay, yeah, because he's there and he's signing these checks,
right,
and
right.
he ran through another pen or two, and they ran out of ink.
Right.
So I don't know. Anyway, I thought this was rushing to tens of millions of Americans' checks. And I wonder, it's kind of interesting because almost everybody's getting theirs electronically delivered.
Okay.
I mean, if you file taxes or got a Social Security number, bank, if they know anything about your bank account, which they probably do.
Yeah.
It's
well,
automatic.
you do have to give me your number. Did you see the one guy who got $8 million?
Yes. And I thought, this is good news. Now, the little minor problem is
dispense.
Well, you wonder, as you go through the thing. Now, most of the ATMs have a limit per day limit, but
there's nothing.
But still, what I'm thinking is, do you think there's any chance they're going to try and recover it?
They had taken it out before Monday, before he even called his bank the next day.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they already figured it out, huh?
They did. Pretty quick.
Damn. So anyway, this is great. So anyway, the stimulus checks, I haven't gotten mine yet. I checked.
Mm-hmm.
Today, somebody told me that today was the day.
Some people on my Twitter feed got theirs.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, this is upsetting. I need mine. I gotta spend some money on something.
Uh-huh.
All right. Moving on, let's just see here. President has decided to halt funding to the WHO.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Well, I checked up, and it turns out that we are the largest contributor to the WHO.
No.
Well, and believe it or not, though, it only...
we're the largest contributor to every single NGO on the planet.
Right, and
like
apparently
times.
there's over 100 countries that contribute
Oh, yeah, okay.
to it. But most of them are...
$50.
Well, no, literally, it's pocket change. We contribute about 25%
Okay.
of it, and of course, when you look and see what he was complaining about was they seem to have been taken over by the Chinese.
Yeah, well, the reports have been all over the news as to whether or not they are actively taking China's side in terms of just reporting what the Chinese want them to report.
Yeah. Right. Well, see, what happened was apparently the WHO was called in fairly early into the Wuhan, whatever it was.
Okay.
After a couple of weeks, I mean, there wasn't that many deaths before they trotted on over where their representative trotted over, and they issued basically "Don't worry" report.
Yeah.
For quite a while.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reports that Trump took to heart. If somebody's actually been through there and said, "Don't worry about it," well.
Well, it all gets factored in.
Yes, it does. The police in North Carolina have arrested peaceful protesters.
Yes.
They declare protesting is a non-essential activity.
Yes.
See, it's one of those things you say, well, wait a minute, I got this Constitution-y thing here.
Yeah.
And it may not, you can call it what you want, but that's what it's all about. If you're going to, it's one thing to protest Burger King.
Uh-huh.
That's one thing. But you are absolutely 100% allowed to protest political stuff.
Yeah.
That's the free speech. If you want to talk about free speech, you could go out and slander the Burger King people because their quarter pounder was less
styrofoam.
Yeah, whatever. Right. You can do that. All that, but
straws.
Straws, right?
Yeah. Well, look, I wanted to get into this part of it. I don't know how much you have on this subject, but about all these orders and
what the headline was: the coronavirus is exposing little tyrants all over the country.
Right. Well, as we talked about this, I think everybody, all the rulers, all the little, the city leaders and the state leaders, and to some extent the federal as well, they're issuing these orders to try to seem like the protective group and to protect everybody, but almost all of them are unconstitutional. They can't do the crap that they do. I mean, for example, you can't tell people they can't go out.
Yeah.
You can't do that. That's not a thing. If you want to tell the sick people they can't go out, then maybe you've got an argument for that. Maybe.
Well, we do have kind of a history, what do you want to call it, a convention that's been around for hundreds of years, and that is if you've got the bubonic plague or leprosy in your house, then you put a cross on the person's door.
That's right, but you keep them in.
Right.
You don't keep everybody. You don't keep the healthy people in.
No.
I mean, so they've got that backwards at this point. And everybody, the public has this concept of quarantine in their heads kind of flipped, and they're not thinking of it properly. And so hopefully that'll work itself out pretty soon. The only people you can keep inside are the sick people. And even that's questionable. Like you said, it's a convention. Yes, it's hundreds of years old, but are you going to be able to do it for something that has a 0.1% mortality rate? I don't think so.
Right.
And then the other stuff like wearing face masks. I mean, you're going to tell healthy people that they got to wear face masks?
Yeah.
They're doing it.
Well, not only that, you do understand there's public shaming that goes on all of
Which
this.
is fine. Look, that's
the
a
market.
totally different thing. Exactly.
That's the market. You just sit there, and I mean, I went out the other day, for instance, to go get some pills or something. I took my mask.
Sure.
And
look, some people don't even have masks. They're $10 a piece now or whatever.
Yeah.
And so look, it just. Look, everybody wants to do the right thing here, so people aren't going to go out on purpose. But I'm just addressing these little rules. What's another? Oh, the can't travel one. I saw they busted some family who was going on a 250-mile trip. They were just going on a round trip somewhere.
Really?
Yeah, they pulled them over. Well, you can't be out traveling. Like what?
What?
Exactly. And then can't go to church is another big one that you've seen.
Yes, we talked about that.
And of course, the anti-church people are like are all up in why you need to go to church or whatever. I mean,
you can pray in your own home.
Well, exactly.
Wait a minute. You do understand we have 250 churches just in this community. I mean, and they're big, and they eat up a lot of property.
Seriously.
And if you could stay at home, we could free that property up.
Exactly. And of course, that's not going to happen because those traditions have only been around for millennia.
No, that's right.
So that's you can't do that. And the other one is closing everybody's business. People are going to start to realize, as I believe they have, that the government just can't issue a blanket shutdown of everybody's business.
Well, of course they can.
Well, and that's what exactly. They can, but they can't. I mean, they can't. They're doing it. But from a legal perspective, nobody has the authority to do. I mean,
they have a gun, though.
Well, I know.
Can show up
they
with
have
a gun.
The power.
They don't have the power.
authority.
And of course, the question then is, could you now? I guess the courthouses are all closed, but you should be able to go in front of the judge and say, "Judge, this is."
Well, that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
But the thing is it's going to take so long for that to happen. By then, the governors, all the executives will have given up on all that shit by then.
Okay.
Because they'll all have realized, all their attorneys will have come to them and said, "You can't do that." I mean, look, Cuomo is doing a mask order in a couple of days. That's going to be huge because if the numbers keep coming down. I think it goes into effect tomorrow night. Then what is that?
That's not the one that has thousands of. You said a mass order.
Mask order.
A mask order. Okay.
Yes. So basically, he's saying if you go out in public in New York City, you're going to have one of these masks. Exactly. You really think that they're going to try to enforce that? And we saw the one video of 7 cops without masks pulling a guy without a mask off the subway.
Right, off the bus.
And of course, the comments were stuff like, "Why didn't they just give him a mask?"
Right. You would think, absolutely. You would think that the first responder people,
that's it,
would have a box of masks.
Exactly. And I mean, instead of handcuffs, you just hand out the masks. And of course, there's some people who will just, okay, I don't want to wear that, and throw it on the floor, whatever. Okay, fine. But yeah, exactly. You shoot those people, you can clean them right up. Look, that again, it just comes down to a question of what can you tell healthy or adult Americans who haven't done anything that you can prove in any way what to do and what to wear.
I took a picture. You have no mask.
Well, exactly, and so there will be lawsuits after this is all over. There'll be blanket rulings as to the legality or the illegality, and I think that the rulings will just basically let the municipalities and the authorities off for any overreach, and they'll dismiss the tickets or the charges or the fines at various levels.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, I so often, even when the stuff's dismissed, we still have to pay the $45 court cost.
Right, it'll be like that, and it will be that. It will be that.
No, nothing on your record, but
right.
you need to go
because
over
there's
there.
still a record that you got the ticket.
Yeah, that's true.
It'll just say on the record,
Expunged.
No, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
But they're going to get their $45.
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I just the response of some mayors and governors to the coronavirus pandemic in recent days has made it clear that they think they have unlimited and arbitrary power over their fellow citizens.
Right. Well, so,
and of course, what I'm thinking is, you're my neighbor.
Right.
I mean, you live down the street here. You know,
Right.
some of these places are.
I have unlimited power.
Yeah, what are you talking about? When I think about some of the towns I've been in, where you have one sheriff. I mean,
Right.
you have literally no deputies,
Right.
one sheriff, and he drives around in his car, for I don't know 4 or 5 hours at night or something, but then he's back from 9 to 5. He's in the Hooskow place, in his office, and then goes home, goes to bed.
Yeah.
But this is the guy who has the power,
Right.
And everybody knows everybody, and what? It's kind of like Andy, what are you doing? I mean,
Right, exactly.
It was like Don Knotts, when you sit there and say,
I'm arresting everybody.
that's
Andy.
right.
I brought the whole town.
Here's
in.
my bullet. I'm getting my bullet out now.
That's right. Well, and hopefully you have the Andy Griffith sheriff, and we do have some of those around. There's a sheriff out in Oregon, or Oregon, as they like.
I saw that. Yeah.
Who is up against the establishment, basically saying, "Look, people, we're going back to work here, so
Yeah.
f off. We can do whatever we want." And there's people in various places doing that. But I thought it was interesting. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to show. This is an order out of Georgia, which shows that even though you're handcuffed and you're being transported in the patrol car, that you're not actually under arrest. It's because it's civil. This is all civil.
Okay.
So it's just for your safety and just for officer safety. You're
Right. For officer safety.
right. You're being transported to a quarantine-approved isolation facility.
Not under arrest.
Right, but you're not under.
You're not free to go.
Well, not exactly.
Am I free to go? I mean, isn't that one of the first questions you ever?
That is the magic word.
Those
are
magic thing. Am I free to go?
Exactly. And I wonder how they're told to answer that. See, that's level 2 Jedi mind trick.
That's exactly right. Level 2. Oh.
And but yeah, that's what you ask if they put you in the car, and then maybe you can get away with suing them later. But like I said, that's exactly the kind of thing.
Well, you can't. The problem is, this is that qualified immunity business.
Well, but that's one of the exceptions to qualified immunity. Is unlawful arrest. You can sue for unlawful arrest.
But I mean, you sue the city. You don't sue the guy.
Right.
Officer 293.
Right. No, you're right. Well, there are exceptions, but for the most part, you sue the city.
Right.
But there is a way to sue, and yeah, they have caps on your damages and stuff like that.
$50.
Yeah, exactly. Here's how much was the cab ride home?
Yeah.
But still,
$50 in court costs.
Those are the kind of issues that'll be solved with some sort of blanket rulings, like those protesters that got picked up in North Carolina. You saw that. I mean, that's one of the stories you were reading, I think, or just like it.
Okay.
Where they were protesting the reopening of businesses.
Right. Yeah.
And they all get tickets, and I guarantee you, if I was their attorney, I would say, hell yeah, appeal that shit as far as.
Well, it wasn't, because the picture did show some burly cop with and the woman that was the major of they had stories about her. She was handcuffed behind her back.
They do that regularly. That's
officer safety.
That's right.
Officer safety, and of course, and
to
of
do
course,
it to a woman, that's like, come on.
you would. Well, no, I feared for my life. I mean, what are you talking about? I didn't want to get slapped.
Well, exactly. It's not for
Do you see the fingernails on that woman? No, it's just, and of course,
my eyes out.
They can, of course, they can do anything, as you know, under the guise of protecting public health.
Well, okay, so the way that it breaks down is the governors actually technically have whatever plenary power is left that's not been reserved or sequestered off by the Constitution. Technically, the Constitution protects you from everything, but in reality, the governors have a huge amount of power. Like you said, they have police power, health power, safety.
Well, they're executives, and that's why they issue executive orders.
Right.
These are the full force of law.
That's right. But we should address when it comes to the governor versus the president, as has been brought up this week. When the president says he has total authority.
Well, he backed off of that.
Well, interestingly, it all depends on what level of emergency this is.
Okay.
Because he can declare this thing a national emergency to the extent that he can then override whatever state powers are left. And the feds will go along. The federal people will do whatever he says.
Well, I know that.
And so
that was the big deal on the wall. Didn't he declare an emergency, invasion emergency or something?
He heightened the level of it and took some federal authority. Exactly.
Okay.
And they can do that. And the president does have total authority when it comes to an invasion, like you said, a threat to the national security.
Okay.
And so if he wants to, he can supersede everybody and everything. But like you said, he backed off of that because he doesn't get anything politically out of it. Then what do you get from that?
Well, it was interesting. I saw a lot of the people that are Trump haters, said tyranny, this is tyranny.
Well, sure.
And the word it was all over the place. Tyranny.
Yeah, but they've used it up. I mean,
you're right.
They've been calling him a fascist Hitlerite.
Russia. I mean, you just say, God, give me a break.
Is it racist?
Yeah, is it racist? Yes. It doesn't matter what it is. It's
because
racist.
Then.
That's right.
Oh my God. And of course, they tried to make this thing racist with the whole China thing. And
go ahead. I've got a note on that. What I got a note on that. Let's see. Halts that central. Let me just see here. Oprah has declared racism.
Oh yeah.
Oprah stresses the seriousness of the coronavirus attack impact on the black community.
Oh.
It's taking us out. Us being the black community. The media mogul is looking to raise awareness of the dangers of the coronavirus to the African American community, which has been disproportionately affected. It's not only ravaging our community, but people who have pre-existing conditions, which I think people don't hear that. So if you're taking medication for your diabetes, or if you're taking medication because of hypertension, if you need asthma inhaler for asthma, if you have any kind of lung disorder, you're disproportionately, if you're a black person, affected. And I'm thinking, well, not really. A lot of that has something else involved, and that has to do with poverty and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of other things that are involved.
Well, yeah, that's one of the factors the squad was pointing out, that, I mean, obviously, if you're lower income, there are health issues that go along with that as well. And but that's all part of, that's why you strive to get more income, so that you can lead a healthier lifestyle.
Right.
I mean...
Yeah, well, I just thought that was kind of interesting that she's singling out a racist kind of thing there. Which my question is, really, it's a pandemic. People are dying everywhere. So.
Of all the people, I'm never worried about Oprah being racist. She's never come across that way. She's just making an announcement.
I thought it was kind of an accident, is what I'm saying. I see people all the time that, especially downtown here, they'll say something and you look at them and you say, but wait a minute, that's. In any other context, that would be right. I know it's just an accident.
Well, there is a lot of that going around. Whenever you hear people talk about, whenever I hear when they say, people of color, well, that means okay, everybody but you white folks, basically.
Well, then there's another thing that is my people.
Yeah. Well, again,
my people are against this. Wait, who are you talking about?
Yeah. Again, I'm not worried about Oprah. She doesn't do anything.
All right. Well, good for you. The next big deal, of course, is moving. We're going to go on some things here that are good news and bad news. The central banks have added more gold to their reserves.
What central banks?
The central banks. The Central Bank of France, Russia, China.
But, they can't all add more because they got to buy it from somebody.
Well, they are. It turned out that one of the sellers was, Burkina Faso or something, and they buy it on the London market. There's privately held gold stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And they can buy it off of that. On net, the central banks globally added another 36 tons of gold to their reserves in February. 36 tons. according to the latest data released by the World Gold Council. That was about 33% higher than January's total. Now, here's my question. We're talking about the regular old run-of-the-mill central banks. These are the guys that issue the local currency, so to speak. Now, in Europe, of course, it's all euros, and I guess they have the European Central Bank. It's not like you have the French or German anymore, although I think they also, some of those people are have gold somewhere. That I don't know what kind of banks they are, but my point is,
right? Yeah.
And my point is that when you think you don't have any idea how much 36 tons is.
Well,
It's not much. My point being,
go ahead.
why are central banks, Japan, China, Australia, why are these people adding gold, this quantity of gold, to their central bank reserves? That is, all we're talking about is getting these big bars of gold, 100 ounce, 200, 300, 500 ounce bars, and stuffing them in a vault somewhere in the central bank building.
Right.
And the question you have to ask is, why would they do that? Why? What is the reason that they would spend money on something that's just gold? And of course, the reason is even the central banks realize that it's real money.
Well, I agree with you that they know that the gold is real money, but this is a chart here. What we're looking at is the number of tons of gold held by the various countries around the world. And as you can see here from the bottom here, the United States has 8,000 tons of gold. So 36 tons is like nothing.
It's a rounding error. And of course, the other thing is, as somebody was talking to me, they had the movie where they were robbing the gold out of the bank,
right?
And of course, what somebody was saying was, you can't imagine how much
how heavy all that stuff.
How heavy it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
you get a huge monster 18-wheeler, you're gonna hold shit.
Yeah, hey TJ, you can tell us how much that holds there. But yeah, so look, they should be stocking up on their gold supplies right now, because the potential that the money supply is going to take in terms of a hit. But
eventually, it's going to have to do it. You can't add $3 trillion a year to the reserve currency of the world and not have it come home and bite you.
Right. Well, I've been thinking about that quite a bit, and it seems to me as though just the worldwide use of the dollar is in such high demand these days that that's how they're getting away with it.
Yeah, no, it's always been that way. I mean, there's probably 50 or 60 countries that literally have dollar bills in their vaults as a reserve to their currency.
Yeah, and apparently when you're trading, for example, yen to francs or something, you go through dollars in the meantime. Yeah, there's weird things like that going on, which I gotta think that in today's cryptocurrency universe, that those kinds of issues would evolve. That the money transfer. I mean, why you want to trade it through dollars? Why would you do that?
Well, they've done that. They've done that for a long time. For instance, in oil,
right?
They had petrodollars,
right?
And that's, if you wanted oil, it was, no matter what it was always in dollars. Now, they did have a little bit where the Saudis or somebody directly traded with Russia, and the petrodollar people were upset about that.
Yeah, and I mean that's exactly the kind of thing that I'm talking about. And I don't know how much of an economic impact that would have on the dollar, but it seems like it would be pretty substantial. But
we've seen the impact in my lifetime. I've seen Coca-Cola go from a nickel a bottle to $1.
Yeah.
For the same thing exactly.
Yeah. Well, I did create our little inflation list, which basically has some prices in today's dollar amounts, and then we'll check back in a few months and see what the difference is. But I'll clean up the list a bit here. This is just a rough draft here.
It was interesting that every once in a while you see where somebody has a photograph of the McDonald's menu on the wall from 70s. Yeah. And I mean, it's like no money at all. I mean, for $2 you could get stuffed.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that's interesting. Okay, moving on.
It won't last forever.
No. But nothing lasts forever. That's the one thing.
Well, but it's even more than that. I mean, they have enjoyed an incredible run with the sustaining value of the dollar for decades, since it's literally been removed from representing any value at all.
Right.
It's hard to believe that we survived after the 1971 change.
Well, if you look at the chart on inflation, as bad as inflation was, coming up to that point, it was a little line like this, and then the announcement, and it went like this.
Right.
And I mean, right away, everybody just jumped in.
Yeah, and I mean, at some point, I just can't imagine. At some point, somebody won't require that the money have some intrinsic value.
Well, you say that, but they could. One of the things that I always like, I've collected some bills.
Yeah.
From the 20s and 30s these are gold bill, $10 in gold coin, payable to the bearer on demand.
Right. They're all
at the United States Treasury, and it's signed by the treasurer, by two people, signed right there. And you walk in there and say, this is a promise from the United States of America. And this is the old money.
It's an old promise.
Yes, yeah, that's the old promise. We don't.
Well, but that's what I'm getting at, is that was the money that was valuable. And once somebody goes back to that, I can't imagine everybody won't want to use that currency.
Well, that's the other thing is, and of course they're talking about all the time. They come up and they say, well, there's not enough gold to supply. Well, no, there is. It wouldn't matter if there was. They're talking about issuing a platinum $1 trillion coin.
Yeah,
I mean,
what a joke.
Yeah, right. But my point is that if you got how many 8,000 tons of gold. So each dollar, if you want to call it that, of course you probably devalue it or something like that.
Yeah.
But a dollar would be worth, a tenth of a gram or a tenth of a grain or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
And it would say on there, whatever. And what you'd have to do is you have to get 1,000 of them in order to get an ounce of gold.
Yeah, whatever the value is, you could divide it up further than that, and so it wouldn't be a problem. I mean, there's just no problem with the terms of the fungibility of gold anymore. All those arguments are ridiculous about.
They are, but again, it's if you can fool some of the people some of the time and blah blah blah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they fooled a bunch of people right now because they just got away with trillions of dollars. They just literally walked out the door with trillions of dollars.
The thing about
and nobody is saying a thing. People are like, well, the real fight is going to be, I saw somebody, just a crazy argument. Oh, the real fight's going to be for your dollars once you get back into the market, and the advertisers are going to chew you up with their advertising and fighting for your dollar, and it's going to be a big ripoff and a scam. And I'm like, first of all, you got to agree to that. And second of all, what about the money they just took?
Yeah.
They just took money.
Not only that, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is whenever they have this huge injection like this, it takes 6 months to work through the system.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and so the simple fact is that the price of your car or your refrigerator or whatever did not go up by 20% yesterday.
Right. Well, that's the argument for doing
December.
it. There's a bunch of people who argue, well, look, that's why we should do this kind of big government intervention now, because we can target the spending right where it needs to be to the people who need it.
Right.
And then later on, we all just pay a little price with a small increase in our daily goods at the end of the year, or year after, or whatever. That forget about the fact that it's theft.
Well, it's the worst kind also, because one of the things that happens, one of the taxes you have is on capital gains.
Right.
So you've got, you buy a house. For $100,000, and because of inflation, and when you go to sell it, it's $300,000, and they tax you.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even talking about the taxes. I'm just talking about the devaluation of the currency.
Well, that's one of the reasons that's where the devaluation shows up. Let me just tell you that there's some good news and bad news. We're talking. As I mentioned about the cars, they didn't raise the price. Turns out that au contraire, the used auto market is on the verge of collapse.
The used auto market?
Yes.
Okay.
And also the new auto market.
I would expect it.
No, they are. Because people aren't buying.
Right.
And so they're really taking a big hit. Now, right now it's in the single-digit percentage and so forth, but when you're talking about companies that's worth billions of dollars, this is big money. Mm-hmm. And 6 months from now, there will be a huge if not unprecedented levels of wholesale supply in the market. Cars are coming in, but they're not going out. They're not selling.
Right. Well, because they'll be repossessing a bunch of cars when people default on their loans.
Not only that, there's a lot of them that are coming off lease, and they're going to sit there. You know, you turn it in, here's your keys, and I'm out of here.
Rental cars.
Right. Lease cars, rental cars, that's right. And so what they're saying is they're kind of looking down the pike, and they're saying there's going to be a glut of cars on the market, and the only way to get rid of the glut is to dump the price, which, as far as I'm concerned,
well, that's one of their initiatives in the new coming fourth bailout plan is another cash for clunkers.
Yeah, I heard about that. But did you see what the old? I looked at the old cash for clunkers. It wasn't hardly worth it. And of course,
it wasn't worth it at all.
It wasn't worth it at all. Not only that, it horribly distorted the market because
that's what I mean.
It took perfectly usable cars that were, could be sold for $200 or $300, at least transportation, and crunched them. So you couldn't get it anymore.
It's weird. Well, did you hear about the housing market as well?
No.
So J.P. Morgan Chase has just announced that for new mortgages from them, you're going to need a 700 credit score and 20% down.
Now 700, that's high.
It is.
I mean, most people have got like a 560 or 660.
Exactly.
700, that's
a real credit score.
Well, not only that, and of course the only reason you've got 20% down is because you've got that kind of a credit score.
Exactly.
I mean, nobody that's only got $10,000 is going to have a $700 credit score.
So what do you think that's going to do to the new housing mortgage application? Exactly.
Bye-bye.
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 And so I gotta believe, and of course, J.P. Morgan Chase is, of course, the biggest bank in the country.
Are they?
Yeah.
Bigger than Goldman Sachs?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in terms of a consumer bank.
Okay.
I'm not sure Goldman Sachs market.
They're mostly private bank, I guess.
Yeah, maybe so, private equity stuff. But what I'm getting at is that people will follow suit to what J.P. Morgan does. If J.P. Morgan's doing it, that means everybody's going to do it.
Right. Yeah.
All the big lenders
follow the elephant. That's
exactly.
For sure.
And so the housing market, I got to bet, in the next 6 months is going to tank because
and of course, one of the things that's holding it up right now, of course, are the low interest rates that are coming from the feds.
Right.
And they've apparently...
But even that's not going to get you your 20% down.
No, but I mean, isn't Freddie and Fannie not insisting on 20% down, or what?
Well, that's... I haven't heard what they're going to do, and I doubt it. They'll probably do the reverse. They'll probably come out and say, well, we have a new program for new home buyers to bridge the gap, no money down type of thing. Yeah, they'll go back the other way because they're a government agency.
Yeah.
They're not in it to make money.
No,
they're in it to give away money. So,
good news though while we're in the thing. There's people making money.
Grocers.
Well, seed companies.
Seed companies.
Seed companies cannot keep up with as more and more Americans turn to growing their own garden. The seed companies are being buried in orders.
Good.
And
cool.
They said the gardening has become the new I'm going to walk out my backyard, come and arrest me kind of thing.
Yeah.
And plant.
Well, man, I hope so, man. I loved that story we reported on a while back about the front yard gardening transformation thing. I haven't heard anything more about it. I should have looked it up if I'd known you were doing that story. Maybe we'll look it up for next time. But last time we checked, last we left our heroes, they were buried in orders for a whole year.
Yeah.
And
right. Well, not only that, I'm thinking here, when you realize that a lot of crops take 90 days. Okay, well, this is the middle of April? Mm-hmm. May, June, July, middle of July, you can be pulling those crops out of the ground. Carrots or whatever grows, potatoes.
Yeah, I heard there's a run on chickens at the Rural King.
Yes, I saw that. Yes. Yeah, I saw that. Now, another thing this is in another country. The headline is from another country, which I thought was interesting. Sex toys have taken off.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, apparently they have. This is in Colombia for some reason. I'm not sure why. But they are doing, you phone up, you order from the catalog, you go down there and you get it through the door, I guess, and head on home. And they said, but the sex toys have skyrocketed.
I gotta believe that, and Netflix. And,
Netflix, right?
Man, and Netflix they just gotta be melting computers over there.
Yeah. That's for
the
sure.
streaming going on.
There is another thing that the two other things that are big sellers. I was in the store the other day and I noticed that you can buy apparently like a little plastic standy thing that sits up like this, and it's got a little window in it where you shove your money through or your credit card, and so it protects both people from spitting on each other or something.
Spray shield of some
Spray
kind.
shield. Well, not only that, I don't know if you noticed this, but lately the caps that you buy have a shield that drops down.
Yeah, what in the world?
No, seriously. This is, I mean, so those whoever's making those things, you know, this is a market niche that's being filled. I was in the store the other day, literally, and here I've gone in there 100 times, and even when there's nobody else in there, and now they've got this little standy, and the guy must have come in there and said, "I saw, $20, whatever it is, and you're good." And I'm thinking, here in 6 months, or when are they going to take it down, throw it away, or are they going to be, go in the trash bin, or what? Of course, it's plastic, which is really bad.
How many whales are we going to get?
That's it, right?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, and another change that we may see coming is I've noticed. Did you see Chick-fil-A was talking about accepting cash payments?
Really? No.
Yeah, well, they were talking about taking them through their app only. In other words, they don't want the physical cash. Because the CDC or WHO or somebody came out and said, well, yeah, you can get the stuff through the cash, obviously. And so...
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of cool because, like, I went through Starbucks the other day, and instead of them handing cash back and forth, the girl holds the little wand out the window and scans your phone, your QR code on your phone, and you've deposited $20 into your Starbucks account or whatever it is.
Well, one of the things, of course, there's 2 or 3 apps now on your phone, besides not only Apple Pay, but where you just Apple Pay it.
Right, exactly. Well, I think those things are going to explode.
I know they are. I mean, there's no question, because, and as I say, there's some competition. Somebody was telling me there's 2 or 3 of them out there now.
There's a bunch of them. Digital wallets. I mean, I remember, because man, if you can be the corner on that market, whew.
Well, you know that Apple's trying to do that.
Sure.
I mean, it comes whether you like it or not. They're like, I don't know, half a dozen or a dozen apps that come on your Apple phone when you buy it, whether you like it or not, and you can't get rid of them.
No, I know.
I mean, on my iPhone, for instance, I don't have an Apple Watch, but I got an Apple Watch app.
Right.
You can't get rid of it.
Well, that's the other question is, are they going to have the one you can't get rid of be the health app that listens to your cough and...
Well, not only that, but and of course they're going to probably have that one we talked about last time, where every time you walk next to somebody that might be suspect, then there's a deet deet deet, get a run away. Right.
Well, I would be willing to participate in that. I mean, as a voluntary thing, but obviously, I don't want them doing it and forcing it on people. All right, we had TJ join us. Hey, TJ, hope you had a good time, man. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see if you said anything here I can comment on. Officer 293, what is that? I don't know what that means.
That was one I just made that up.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Anyway, hope you had some fun. We did here. Let's see here. All right. Well, we'll be back
Sunday
at 4 o'clock. These tracks brought to you by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate it. I'm Counselor Curtis. This has been the Jimmy Doane Show.